cannot do it. But you know why they would come out and say, you remember they said they would write to foreign governments and tell and investors and tell them, don't invest in St. Lucia. So if one person in the government is corrupt, take the person to task, get them arrested, put them in jail, let them pay for their corruption. But don't come and try and destroy the country in the process. And people who are serious, nobody who's serious about the development of St. Lucia can vote a Labour Party government. No. What is the track record of development? That's right. We have regressed every time the Labour Party is in office. So I wanted to highlight something to you in what I have there about the walkouts. Why won't you stand as a man? If you have to take blows, take blows. They always complain about, oh, we don't want them to talk. Let me tell you, the rules in Parliament is once this light goes on and you catch the eye of the speaker and he says to you, you can speak, you have an hour. On any bill, any motion, anything that is before the House. Even if we want to make noise, even if we want to say this or say that, how many times have we walked out of Parliament?
Not once.
How many times have the Labour Party walked out of Parliament? And that's what I want to read from
you. You know, Louis George sat there in 97. He never walked out of the House. When he had 16 other members pointing fingers at him. And
the day I had the fallout with the speaker, how many of us was there?
Not, yeah.
I was practically there alone on the opposition side. Okay? I was on my own. But I want to read from page 227 of It Will Be All Right in the Morning. And the title on the chapter 18 says, if St. Lucians wondered what might have happened had the Labour Party won the 1974 elections, they got a pretty good idea. And it reads, it had been rumored that the SLP was having trouble over the selection of the official leader of the opposition. Does that sound familiar?
That's familiar. Very.
Now, remember I'm talking about 1974. But not until Kenneth Foster made his appearance in the House were the stories validated. For Foster turned out to be the only member of the opposition who did not boycott the scheduled House meeting. So that's a trademark of the Labour Party, to boycott once they cannot have their way, once they have their internal struggles. So I want people, I will read the section and then I will make my comments because I don't want people to lose sight. So it says, but not until Kenneth Foster made his appearance in the House were the stories validated. For Foster turned out to be the only member of the opposition who did not boycott the scheduled House meeting. He explained his position to the press. I saw no reason to delay the business of the people who elected me. That is why I am here. I have no idea why the others did not show up today. Via the party secretary, the SLP announced its reasons for not attending the House sitting. We were not given sufficient notice. The party spokesman also revealed that Alan Louisi had been unanimously elected leader of the opposition, and on the grapevine, Foster was still the party's political leader, but the feeling was only until the next party convention. In the weeks immediately following the 1974 elections, it would become increasingly obvious that the Labour Party was a long way from solving its internal hassles. Foster took no part in the almost nightly public meetings around Castries during which Odlum and Josie warned listeners to expect a Labour government after the courts had dealt with various charges against the United Workers' Party. Odlum would prove a false prophet. However, for the courts, Odlum would prove to be a false prophet. However, for the courts would finally reject all his allegations as baseless. That almost sounds like Trump. But if you listen to what is there, you see the
trend.
The trends. That's in the DNA of the Labour Party. Once they cannot have their way, so why you think they boycotted the sitting of the Senate? Is that new? Back in 1974, and they may want to tell you, but Josie on your side today, because Josie has realized the errors that was made, and maybe not even necessarily errors that was made. There are certain things where you are at a certain point in your life, you make decisions subject to where you are. The late George Odlum understood, and he said that everything the UWP had built in how many years the Labour Party would destroy in 2 years. And he's been proven right. What is it that we have to show after the years of the Labour Party being in government? Now, I want to ask St. Lucians a question tonight. You don't have to answer me. If you look at Philip J. Pierre as leader of the opposition, and you look at Dr. Kenny Anthony, former Prime Minister, is Philip J. Pierre better than Kenny Anthony? That is the first question we need to ask. So if Dr. Anthony could not manage St. Lucia, with Philip J. Pierre as his deputy, you think Philip J. Pierre can manage St. Lucia with Kenny as his deputy?
No.
Or with Hile or Sean as his deputy? You really think you can risk, after 42 years, when you are supposed to be mature, that's when you consider yourself a man. You have grown up. You suppose, because when we talk about independence, my father used to say, "Sou nom passe moi, I plante kat poto." So if I say you have to be back home for 8 o'clock, you have to be back home for 8 o'clock. You cannot think you can come at 8:15, 8:30, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. The door is locked. If the door is locked, you have to ask somebody on the inside to open for you. Ekikadu demal kwab.
That's true.
So, si ou nom passe mwen, ek ou feel that ou sentwe lovely, ay plante kat poto. Là ou plante kat poto, ou quand ou lovely, ek ou ka sorti lovely.
Right.
So, là ou senti ou nom, ou ka fe sa nom fe. Ou ka bil kayou, ou ka responsable kou, mais tout temps ou ba rouf mwen. Ek se mwen kin bou ba ou manje, mwen kin bou ba ou bwe, mwen kin bou ba ou dormi. Ou pou nom ase pou kondoui kay mwen, ade ek mwen.
That's right.
So, we learned that, and those of us who grew up in this era, we understood that. So when we talk about independence, really and truly we will give St. Lucia in this environment to Philip J. Pierre to handle. You are deputy for how many terms you said you've been there? 5 terms?
5 terms.
You've been deputy. Every time he's doing me 5. 5 terms you deputy. You cannot come up with something. You had to wait until Dr. Anthony decided that he give up. Why didn't he give up? I want St. Lucians to ask the Labour Party. Why didn't Dr. Kenny Anthony, after he lost elections in 2006, why didn't he resign? as leader.
Can I say something?
Sure.
You have a former prime minister, 1997, lost in 2006. Nothing to show for the people of Beaufort. Let's forget St. Lucia for the moment because nothing was done for St. Lucia, but we're looking at the constituency. Came back in 2011. So you would have said, you would have thought, well, okay, he didn't do what he was supposed to do from 1997 up until 2006. So he has an opportunity now from 2011 up to 2016. And Mr. Minister, the same trend. Nothing was done. There is not one 20-year-old down in the South, in Beaufort South, you would ask today, is there anything that you've seen from your rep? They could not answer you. They could not answer you. Or if your dad would say, you say to your dad, well, Daddy, can I go to an establishment where my former rep or my parliamentary rep has put something together where I could get a job? You still could not get an answer from that. Mm-hmm. The former prime minister, and when I argue this, some people get upset. The former prime minister, Dr. Anthony, did nothing for the South. Nothing. It is there. It is clear.
And so, Champagne, you're talking about the South. You are from Castries East.
Oh, well, don't forget that.
The new leader of the... Because I tell people, you cannot expect to get water out of a rock. No. Only God could do that. Mm-hmm. And he told Moses to speak to the rock, and Moses struck the rock. Mm-hmm. And you know there was a particular penalty for that. Mm-hmm. Because of that, Moses could not enter the promised land. He died on the mountain. He was just able to see the promised land because he had disobeyed a direct command from God. In the process, and you know, when these things come up, I don't like to just say things. I want people to understand the basis of why certain things happen. The children of Israel was complaining about water, that they were thirsty and they should have been left in Egypt. They would rather be slaves than to die in the wilderness of thirst and everything. And Moses went to God and he said, look here, these people, they are complaining and whatever. So God told Moses, go and speak to the rock and water will come out. But Moses lost his temper, the meekest man, maybe one of the most patient persons history has recorded. He lost his temper momentarily. And instead of speaking to the rock, he struck the rock. God still allowed the water to come through. But Moses was not permitted to enter the promised land. He begged God, and God took him to the mountain and allowed him to see the promised land. But he did not make it there. The point I am making about where we are, you cannot expect from people what they don't have. If I don't have it, no matter how much you are hopeful, I cannot give it to you because I don't have it. How can you expect Philip J. Pierre to lead this country successfully into anything when he has a little constituency that he cannot manage? What has he done? What are the changes that we have seen in Castries East from Romanas Lansiko's time to now?
Okay, so the Bacatel lands, let me give you some history. So the Bacatel lands, you have almost 1,000 people living on those lands. It's called the Cecil lands. And the people has been promised and promised they're going to get title, they're going to survey, they're going to get their deeds. 5 terms. The Bacatel lands are the same. They were supposed to be...
You're not serious about
5 terms, the Bacatel lands, Cecil lands. All the people in Bacatel are still there, waiting for titles for the Bacatel lands in 25 years. And every 5 years you hear, we will. Look at the people from the march at the George Charles Boulevard in Rock Hall. Some of those people were supposed to be moved from there. 5 terms later, they're still there.
So let me give you an example. I have 2 areas in my constituency. Bele, where there are squatters, that land was owned by First National Bank, And I'm not one of the ministers who just go and as government try and acquire people. I called a bank, we spoke to them, we made arrangements. Because of the number of squatters, it would be too difficult for them to manage this. They said, look, go ahead and acquire. When you rationalize whatever, when the government can pay, the government will pay us. So now we are in the process. As we speak there, I have 20 of my constituents who have put in their applications for land in that Bel development. And they will get access before the next election. I know the Prime Minister is doing one in his constituency in Angers, and the surveys are being done as we speak. Mary Isaac, who's not an elected MP, has lobbied the government for acquisition of all of the GIS lands so that we can pass on title to the persons. In Odsa, I have gone through, we tried to negotiate with the Dovey people, but the people overseas, a lot of back and forth. People have been on this land renting for 40 years. We've now made the acquisition. The plans have gone into with planning. By next week, I expect to be in the community to distribute the application forms for each of the households in the Odsa community so that all of these people can have title to the lands that they have been occupying from since some of them their grandparents' days. In the community of Sarot, Sandife, Bexon Heights, all of these, most of these people now have title to the properties through the Proud program. You're telling me that all of these years. And that's what I tell people. So yes, you can like somebody. There's nothing wrong with liking the person. But because you like the person, don't think that they can do the world for you. Because if they are not capable, they are just not capable.
That's right. And the Honorable Philip J. Perry is not capable. There was some learned slippage in Bagatelle as well, where most of the people there didn't have any gutter, and so when it rains, all that water, not even that he could have done. It had to take the, what was the gentleman in England? Guy Mayers. Guy Mayers had to come out with a program to do guttering in the same Bagatelle. Not even that he could have done. But
the wall outside, not the wall by his house, that was the subject of dispute. The river wall coming around there. I was the minister when that wall was built.
Let me say this.
So what I'm saying to people, the roads in Independence City, the roads, most of the roads in his constituency that was done by the United Workers' Party.
I remember that.
So what I want to tell people is, yes, you may think he is the most capable person within your party, so you made him the leader, but do I think that he can manage St. Lucia? So if I reach the age of maturity, Makuma se vin nom abweza. Because that is what St. Lucia. St. Lucia is coming into manhood. Because you've now passed the age of 40. And some analysts believe that you begin to accumulate your wealth after the age of 40. You begin to be more settled in life. You are more focused. You pass the age of playing around and messing around and, running here and running there. And you begin to focus on where you want to be, how you go. Because as Rick always says, we are not truly independent. If we were independent, we would be able to take care of our business today. But I'm looking forward to the debate in the parliament tomorrow. Because you know why? The Labour Party has been talking a set of foolishness about funds that and what it was given for and how the government used it. I will take the opportunity in the discussion tomorrow to highlight what this government has done, how it has done it, because regardless of what they say, the Labour Party could not meet salary payments when there was no disaster. They came in to cut the salaries of public servants by 5%. This UWP government, We've been able, after almost 1 year of COVID, to meet every salary payment every month, every loan payment that we've had to make, everything.
How was that able to be done, Mr. Minister?
You have capable...
But you have no monies coming in.
You have capable leadership. You have a leader who commands the confidence that St. Lucia was on the right track and moving in the right direction. And Champagne, we have accomplished all of that against the backdrop of wiping off $14 million of bills, hospital bills, for those who could not afford. No property tax for the last 4.5 years. Reduction in the increase of license fees by 50%. Reduction of VAT by 2.5%. Increase in the school feeding program. Increase in the school transport subsidy. All of these. What are the new taxes that we have? Other than the $1.50 on fuel, what other taxes have we increased as a government on the people of St. Lucia?
And I need to ring the bell because I had that on my program sometime last week. And the question was asked, what are the taxes that this administration have implemented on the people of St. Lucia outside the $1.50 on the gas? And everyone could see what that $1.50 is going to. Everyone.
So when we, and that's why we talk about independence. When you're independent, if things get hard, you may run home to mommy and daddy and say, you know, things are tight this week. I cannot meet my obligations. Can you give me a little something to help me? But you don't depend on them every day because you are man. And I'm saying that where St. Lucia is today, we need able leadership. We need visionary leadership because independence by itself is a word. Independence is where we are supposed to be able to take care of all our own affairs. Now, we've not been truly independent in that sense because human nature is we are interdependent. One depends on the other. And the best way to understand that is what we call in relation to, and like I said, we did that in general science in school and social studies. So we depend on the plants and the plants depend on us. So we breathe out carbon dioxide, which is what the plants use to produce, and we breathe in oxygen, which is what the plants... So we depend on each other. The ecosystem that God created made it a way that we cannot truly be independent. We are in charge of our affairs, but it is subject to what the others do. So as everybody stops traveling, how independent are we? So if the boats stop coming to St. Lucia, and people tell you, oh, depend more on agriculture. So when you plant everything that you want to eat and grow in St. Lucia, who's buying it? You think St. Lucians... So if everybody becomes a farmer, who you selling to?
Nah, you can't sell to anyone. Everybody have their own farm.
You understand? So when we say these are, we must have a balanced approach towards development. And that is the approach. I tell them, look at what has happened to the farmers. We are self-sufficient in eggs. So we were not importing eggs. You know, a friend of mine, he has only 50 layers. The amount of eggs that he has, he brought 6 trays of 30 eggs for me.
You're having a bakery, Mr.
No, 7 trays. I distributed in the country because he cannot sell. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Now, what you going to do? Kill the chickens?
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand, when 300 stay-over tourists comes here, that is almost twice the population of St. Lucia. each of these people eat 3 meals a day.
You mean
How many?
You mean 300,000?
Yes, 300,000.
Yeah, you said 300.
Yeah, 300,000 stay over tourists. So we have to understand our dependence on those around us. So if I had my business, and they tell you we treat St. Lucia as a business, if you want to be successful, there are principles that you must follow.
Yes, sir.
If I had something that I was in charge of, whether it be a cricket team, a football team, a business, a bakery, a farm, you think I'll take out Kenny Anthony and put Philip JP in charge of it?
No, it's the same embedment well.
How? I mean, I want St. Lucians to think this thing through properly. I don't care whether you flambeau or you labor. You really believe that a man who has not changed the face of his constituency after representing them for 25 years
25.
can change the image,
25 years.
can change the profile of St. Lucia? We really believe that?
So look at this thing. We had this land slippage up there in Menadil from the Parve area. And that while back. I mean, I know there's a problem with the land. But at least that, when it was functionable, traffic used to come out of the Mon and get to town much easier as opposed to that long traffic backup you have on the Mon. We have not heard not once from our rep to say, well, you know what? We have conducted a survey and we're going to try to fix this road, or this road is not.
But he was Minister for Infrastructure for 5 years.
Okay. And that place is still there. Same way, not a word on it.
So I want people to understand.
This,
now, I'm not hitting the minister that he can, or the former minister, that he can do, because all of us, none of us can do everything we need to do in our constituency. But there are critical things that you need to be able to see a transformation, a change, an improvement, something that people can look up to and can say, look, this inspires hope. This inspires me that I can accomplish, that I can achieve. That, I mean, basic stuff.
Basic stuff. We have another problem in Bacatel, and Mr. Minister, you drive on that road all the time. There's this huge drain about 3 feet apart. And there's always a problem there. My car got hit there all the time. People have to back down the hill. All it has to be done is just full up this huge drain, and then you have access on the side. Not even that the member could even come and take a look at. I mean, simple things like you said.
I want us to focus a bit. What I want people to understand is when we talk about independence, we have to know what we really mean. There are things that we will be, we are responsible for our foreign policy, we are responsible for, but if other countries do not give a helping hand to us, we cannot survive. So you take Taiwan's contribution to the development of St. Lucia. You take what the Japanese doing down there with the JICA bridge and what they've done in the fisheries sector. You look at America's contribution with the amount of tourism and the UK. You look at our market for bananas and other produce in the UK. You look at the combination of things that are happening around us. That is what makes us, that is why I say we are interdependent. One depends on the other. And that is why the management of our business is critical. When I tell people, I'm not afraid of losing elections. I'm not afraid of who the people will choose who they believe is best placed to give them a better future. But I am afraid of the present crop of politicians with the Labour Party. They have all failed. Tell me which one they. Show me the track record of success. Show me a local organization that they have led successfully. Show me a business that they have run, and they have run this business successfully. Show me, because don't just expect that things will turn out a certain way. It's not lottery we play in there.
Right.
It's not bingo we play in there. And if you're lucky and your number come up, then you win. No.
Talking about lives of people.
You must make deliberate decisions. So when you look at a set of people, all they have done for all their life is work for somebody. If somebody do not pay their salary, they cannot earn a living. You really think that they can run this country to make you earn a living? How they're going to do it? And that's what I want to appeal to, the good sense of people. That if a man is not a batsman, you may send him to open the batting, and by luck and chance, he may make a fluke and he hit a couple sixes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he's a batsman.
Yeah.
So often on the Labour Party has done something that is good. It's not everything that they have done that is bad. But now and then you may find a rep having done something that's commendable. But that doesn't mean that they have the capability to be able to produce that time and time again. I mean, every time Lara went to bat, even though he scored ducks sometimes, you expected that there was hope. Even while he was sitting in the pavilion, waiting for his turn to bat, there was hope for the West Indies.
Mr. Minister, where St. Lucia is today is as a result of the UWP.
So let me touch Vieux. Because I want to touch Vieux, because the bedrock of Labour Party is in that area. Labrie, Vieux North, Vieux South. These seats, I think, once UWP won Vieux South,
yes,
with Eldridge Stevens. Maybe once or twice. Did Girodi win one time?
Yes, I think
yeah, they may have won that seat. The others have never
changed.
It'll
be all right in the morning. That's that case.
Now, compare Mikud South, which has been UWP most of the times, have voted Labour once.
Yeah.
Consider Mikud North that never voted Labour. And compared to Grace, Bellevue, Vieux North or Labrie, and tell me which one is more developed. And tell me most of the things that are in Vieux North was still done by a UWP government. And I have to compliment Vincent London on his program with the Prime Minister.
Oh yeah, great program.
And for those who think I didn't listen to it on Sabbath, I listened to the other replay today.
Yes, today, this afternoon.
I listened to the replay today. I heard most of it.
Yes.
I didn't hear all of it. But clearly, you are seeing some promise for Vieux North. You look at what Minister Bradley has done in Choiseul. You know the Park Estate Road. That is where Dr. Anthony grew up, basically, in that general area. 15 years as Prime Minister. Now I know he's thinking is, boy, if I go and do that road, they will say,
it's because I live there.
It's because, but you didn't do it and you still get criticized. So you should have just done it for the people.
I mean, let's look at the water project. Here comes the UWP again in 2020 to bring about a water project in this Beaufort area.
So that's what I want to touch on briefly, because I will come as Minister for Economic Development. I want people to understand what money does. So if you take St. Jude, DSH, Ojo Labs, ITEL BPO, the Grace Water Project, the Wasco construction building.
The airport.
The airport is not really high.
Okay.
Between these companies, if you do a rough calculation, I am certain that this is close to $4 to $6 million.
6 million or 600?
No, $4 to $6 million of revenue on a monthly basis that is in circulation in the economy of Beaufort.
Okay.
Now tell me, under which government, under which leader prior to this point in time that we ever saw that level of economic activity in a place like Vieux. Today, people live in Castries and go in and take jobs.
Yes.
Down at ITEL BPO and Ojo Labs.
Complete reverse.
And these factory buildings were closed for the full time that Dr. Anthony was Prime Minister. And remember, the free constituencies, that's the bedrock of labor. They could not make things work for their own people. The rest of St. Lucia have some hope in them that they can make things work for you. Charity begins at home. If you cannot take care of the people who voted you, it's not all of St. Lucia who voted Dr. Anthony to be Prime Minister. It's the people of Vieux South. Yes, he would have influenced votes around St. Lucia for the other candidates. But it's your people. What do you have to show them that you have done for them that they can be proud of today?
Well,
that their lives have changed for the better.
Well, he said he fixed the square after 18 years and he didn't take the credit for it. And that's what he said.
A square is good.
That's what he said after 18 years, he said that.
But I can ask them the same questions that they have asked us. They tell us people do it roads. The people it in the square. You see, when you use the same logic to explain what they do, so all the roads that is being built, that people are driving on every day, that they're saving money on wear and tear on their vehicle, on parts. You save money on fuel when the road is good. Because all the slow down and moving off and all of that causes you to burn more fuel. And anybody who understands vehicle maintenance would understand that. Especially if you're not driving an automatic and you have to ride the clutch a little to slow down.
That's right.
So you have all of these implications. So, but the same Labour Party will tell you, oh, mun pa ama heshime. So suma deo esyo kama he square avie for sayo kai do.
It's true.
You see, because we have to be balanced in our approach. That's why I said the square is a good thing. So the concrete strip he made, he wanted planes to land next to the field. The playing field in Vieux there.
The promenade, call it.
So what is happening on the promenade?
Nothing.
So you wanted to give your friends job. You gave them jobs. But that road could have built 5 other roads because the Wi-Fi built it. Now, it will take a UWP government to find some good use for that place and to convert it into a place that can generate economic activity. Because the Labour Party does not have that capacity. And the next time I come here, I will come with the numbers from DSH to highlight how many people working, even with DSH as it is there, no horse racing, how many people are working there and how much they earning in total. And I will want St. Lucians to tell me, for all of the years that piece of land was there, did it ever generate that amount of money for anybody in St. Lucia? And I'll give you another classic example. The fire station in Grosely, next to the fire station. Have you seen what's happening there?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
How long has this piece of land been there?
Been there a long time.
What have we generated in terms of revenue from that piece of land? How many people did it create a job for? It had to take the combined efforts of a parliamentary rep who's visionary in the person of Leonard Spider Montus. And you can see what they've done at Pigeon Point, even though they want to point fingers and say this and say that about why you build it and for who you build it and all of that, because that's the Labour Party's aim. But the evidence is there to show that St. Lucians are employed and generating income for themselves and their families. You see what Herod has done in Soufrière. When my market is completed in Bexon, there will be at least 10 entrepreneurs who would have their own business, and if each of them employ one other person, that's 20 new jobs that would be created just out of that. You look at what Sarah is doing in Central Castries with her synergy program and the farm program they're doing in Roseau. Now these programs take time to materialize. You don't see the benefits immediately, but in the long term, it is going to make a marked difference. And so when we talk about the independence of St. Lucia cannot be independent truly if its people have to depend on politicians for handouts. And that is why we have to empower our people. And that is what this UWP government is doing. So all the roads that are being built, all the persons who have subcontracts, I'm not even talking about the main contractors, the subcontractors can now use the earnings from these projects to start their own little business. So if you have 20 or 30 small business people in that food court that is being established. And I hope that the people are very innovative. And everybody don't just sell chicken and fries and fish and chips and this. Be creative. Come up with something that differentiates your product from your competitor so that we should feel good. That we can go up there and sit down under an umbrella and have lunch. It cannot just be Domino's Pizza or KFC and these things. We have to develop our own recipes. We have to come up with things that are authentic St. Lucian, that you can go there and you can sit down, and when the tourists come here, they should want to go there. Whenever I went to Trinidad, I went to the breakfast shed. You know where the breakfast shed was? Down by the port in Port of Spain. And there it was an old place where they used to sell fish and all of these things and meat, and then they converted that place and they call it the breakfast shed. And there you would get everything Trinidadian that you could think of. If you want the roti, whatever kind of food you want, you would get there. So whenever I went to Trinidad, I didn't want to go to no fancy restaurant or hotel to eat. I would want to go to the breakfast shed because there I would get the local juice. I would get all of the other things that are truly Trinidadian. If you want a real kalalu soup, that is where you would go. So I'm saying that when you have that there, and when you see the development in Vieux is finished with the Sandy Beach development that we are looking at, Rodney Bay will have nothing on Vieux Fort. Vieux Fort will be the place to be. And when we can put the straight highway and make Vieux Fort a 35 minutes drive, easy cruising at 65 miles an hour from Castries to Vieux Fort, that is what we are talking about. So when we talk about visionary leadership, when we talk about independence and where we want to be, not the cheap talk of the Labour Party, we are talking about things that are tangible. And we have a leader in Prime Minister Alan Chasney. He has big dreams. He has big visions. All may not materialize, but whatever percentage of it that materialize will be far better than anything that the Labour Party offers. Champagne, I don't want to be very late tonight.
I know you have.
I want to open the lines now. I think I've touched on quite a few areas.
Well, there's a whole lot more, but we have to open up the lines.
Yes, there have other things I wanted.
It is 4560931. We also have our WhatsApp number, 4850931. You would call in to ask the minister whatever question you'd like to ask him about his constituency and St. Lucia at large. A beautiful evening to you. Happy Independence.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening,
Happy
sir.
42nd anniversary to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Champagne, boy, I don't even know where to start.
We'll start somewhere.
Champagne, this Labour Party. talking about putting people first.
Oh, I recognize the voice.
Heard it.
Yeah.
Heard it. Look at Ojo Labs, for example. The government assisted in getting these people jobs off the ground, paying them their salaries. Isn't that putting people first?
Every day, every day.
Who complained it? Who complained it?
Say they were taking the taxpayers' money for a foreign investor.
Yeah, the Labour Party. Who benefited from it? St. Lucians, but they want to put St. Lucians first. Sometimes these guys just keep cutting their nose to spite their face.
Let me ask you something, caller. Now I recognize the voice. Do you know why the people who had the businesses down there at where Ojo Labs is now? I think they call them the factory shelf, the Koreans. You know the main reason why they left St. Lucia?
I don't know.
Would you remember?
Being honest, I can't remember.
Okay, well, a certain tax was announced at a campaign, and it was said as soon as we get in, we're going to put that tax on the Koreans.
Champagne, you don't even have to go that far,
And
you know.
everybody left.
Who was in charge of Bell Fashions?
That was the first business that closed down when the Labour Party ended in 97.
Okay.
Who was in charge of the People's NIC and never paid? You see, people in St. Lucia must not forget. Conveniently, if it's a flabo, and I don't want you to call any names. I don't believe in calling names on these things. But St. Lucians know who was in charge, and all the ladies who worked there for all the years. And the NIC was not paid by a big honcho of the Labour Party. And they put in people first.
Yeah.
Why that man held such a prominent position in the Labour Party? So that's why it's only now they have to say we put in the people first. Because all of a sudden they realize that they had never put the people first. So if after 25 years of Philip J. Pierre you didn't put the people first, is now I have to expect you will put the people first. You already forget. You don't know how to do it. Because if you knew how to do it, you would have done it.
I always believe that we have to bring history up to let the people, especially the young folk now, who doesn't know what has happened before.
That's why I recommended the two books that they need to be reading, because I learned, like I said, I was very young at the time, but I've followed the history of the politics, and I have done quite a bit of reading, so I have a very good idea who's who and who did what in those days.
Let me give you another example. Let me give you another example. In about 2013, I was at home, and this young lady came to my house. She told me she was from Inland Revenue and Statistical Department carrying out a survey on properties. She asked me who was the owner of the property. I invited her into my home. I took her to my mother's bedroom. My mother was lying on her back at the age of 93 years of age, watching the ceiling. She don't know what day it is, whether it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I tell her, here is the owner of the property. I give her my mother's name. Now, before that, at the age when my mother was maybe about 55, 60, under Sir John administration, she was exempted from property tax because she had reached retirement age. You will not believe, after 30 years, my mom was 93 years of age, she got a letter in the mail saying that she has to pay property tax at $467 a year.
Wow.
That's the Labour Party for you.
Yes, that was in 2013. And that thing about could not raise revenue, that started before. You see that famous interview Norbert has played?
Yes.
That started before that. It was like a sequence of events. It led to that. Now, look at today. We did not have a budget for COVID, right? We did not have no estimates for COVID. And look how this government is managing COVID when they say the Prime Minister doesn't know how to spend money. People have to look at these things and take these things into consideration.
These things are very important.
They wanted, they suggested a 5% pay cut for civil servants. This government has employed plenty other staff since COVID because of the health situation. They have purchased a lot of equipment, masks. People don't know. They talk about they borrow and they don't see. They don't know what it is. Okay? They already saying that they're going to borrow again tomorrow.
I will deal with some of that at the sitting of Parliament tomorrow. Because I think things need to be put into perspective so people can have an appreciation.
It is time people call a spade in Parliament and let the nation know what is happening. Because these guys think it's psychology they're using. But they have to. But people have to be very careful with this psychological tactic. Because you cannot tell me we are managing COVID. We have not default on our payments. We have not. The government asked for a waiver of salary for 3 months or a percentage waiver. Everybody. If they didn't take the 5% waiver, they continue paying salaries. Salaries are paid. You know, things are happening.
Caller, when you're a government, you are a government and you cannot borrow. What does that say? You cannot borrow.
You cannot manage money.
Thank you very much.
But something, look, they couldn't borrow. In 2 years, the Prime Minister told him to give him 2 or 3 years, and he put everything in order, and he did. And that is bothering the minds of the Labour Party that they could not borrow. And how can the Prime Minister be borrowing without a problem?
Almost immediately.
Almost immediately. But I'll tell you something. You see this coming election, Champagne? They are already made statements that they need 5,000 votes from the UWP to win this election.
Well, we have to try to see where they're going to get it from.
Our supporters and whoever can on the ground need to do their work.
Yes, sir.
Because the only right thing that can happen is scare tactics to keep people away from the polls.
Yeah. They've done that before.
And they have done it, and they are good at it.
Yeah. Well,
people need to take this thing. This election, let me tell you, this election, people talk about the election before. You see, this election, Champagne, in this COVID era is either we sink or we float. And that will depend on the decisions we make at the next poll.
That's right.
Have a good night.
All right, Colin, thanks a lot.
Can we go off the line?
You want
just
to go
need
off
to highlight.
All right, we had one, okay.
So Champagne, on one of the matters here, I just got an update so we have about 365 active cases, which means that we are coming down very well.
Very well. That is good news.
From where we are.
You want to take a WhatsApp call before we set up?
You ready to go?
Hello, good evening. Hello? I can see you're reconnecting, caller. You're probably in a bad location.
So we have a video I must show. My people really took some time to do some work on this. So that's our independence video that I want to take the opportunity to highlight tonight.
What?
We can, we will. We are a resilient people. We can, we will. Living in a resilient nation. We can. Lucia. We can, we will. We're such a strong nation. We can.
Stephanie, comment vous y est?
Belok. Oui. Moi, depuis maladie Covid, ça arrive cette ici. Moi, je ne peux pas travailler. Bon, si là, je suis à ce côté, quand même, moi, c'est lui qui a servi pour payer l'eau, courant, câble, et pour acheter commission pour manger. Bon, là, on finit comment?
Oui.
Bye, wed. Je pas rien. Si moi, j'ai Covid, moi, fini.
Steph, ou pas ni hand sanitizer et puis masque à vous?
Non, mais c'est ça. Ça m'a tenu la fini.
Eh bien, Miss Steph, je assez pour me bailler. 8 hand sanitizer.
Merci, Bel. Ooh, nice. Na mette yon at poison.
Ouais.
Regarde.
Là, on mettait. Écrit en l'aine ou là.
Ouais.
Ouais, ça bon. Steph,
Merci. Thank you.
precaution is cure. Yo fait une provision pour un hamper pour bailler chacun monde qui est en situation ça. N'a faut joindre. Oui. Et aussi gouvernement fait une provision pour bailler monde job pour faire footpath, petit canal et quand chaque construction travail pour assister yo mais en vote Steph. En Belgique, ma quoi fait ça?
Puisque l'argent bon pour mettre en poche, non, mais pas bon pour femme.
Vous avez fait avec ça, Steph?
Même l'argent, il a payé.
Steph, pas découragé.
C'est mauvais, tout le monde savent. Chimie est mauvais, parce que la boue, depuis la pluie a tombé, c'est by 3 gras.
Every day I have to go by the roadside there and pick up some fellas and go and block the holes.
Il est différent, on est là où on est même obligé sous le haut. Ça doit centrer.
Before Chocolate City, it was too cochon. Yes. It was so terrible. Yes. From the time you live by the bridge to reach here, it's in mud alone you pass in. And now it's a total different thing.
Yes.
The project is a good project. I'm happy with it. It's motorable. Before, well, just 4-wheel that could have go down there, but now cars could drive. So it's a good thing. It's more better for the farmers now because when they drive in their goods now, it won't have to shake, nothing won't have to bruise, and it's better. It's just better.
Well, we are currently building a concrete drain in a waterway that has been a real nuisance to the residents of the community. So it's a real positive net benefit to the community in so many different ways. When it comes to the minimizing on the flooding, or I would say practically eliminating the flooding, ensuring people's homes are now more secure in terms of structural soundness and employment in the community.
To be honest with you, the work that is being done is fantastic. It is good, and it's a long while we were waiting for it. It has come, and we accept it. To God be the glory.
Most of the workers came from the community, persons who are unemployed. Due to COVID now, most of us are out of jobs. So it has helped a lot. Well, I was given a small job to do one of the drains in the area. It really helped, given the fact that I'm unemployed, and it helped sustain my family for a little while.
For the past 20 years, ici à Macawete, travail là fait je me là bien content. C'est un bel travail. In longtemps on a un bel projet qu'on a forestier. Ça a fait mais pas autant bien qu'on fait actuellement.
Right now I am satisfied with the road progress. Right now we can see our minister, Guy Joseph, is working for us, okay? And especially the little holes where we didn't have road, he put in road. Our main road is fixed. We've seen progress, we've seen things happening in our area.
It's nice. My grandmother now, she's 109. Look, she's cool out on the block with us. She could cool out, she could see the scenery, she could hear the birds, she could feel cool breeze.
It was time for the minister to make something happen in Otsa and make Otsa look like Otsa, so the youth of Otsa can enjoy what's in Otsa.
Right now, la Capital Hill up there for so on village. Avec moi apprécier ça 100%.
We can, we will. We are a resilient people. We can, we will. Living in a resilient nation. We can, we will. Saint Lucia. We can, we will. We're such a strong nation. We can, we will. Let we support our neighbor. We can, we will.
Stephanie.
Encourage our children. We can, we will.
We can, we will.
We will. Protect our people. We can, we will. Let's heal together. We can, we will. And let we strengthen our country. We can, we will.
produced, and you know it's the famous check campèche. As you saw, Luke and Stephanie, two of the leading performers of the check campèche group, who assisted us in, I wasn't that involved, but it was primarily done by the Castries Southeast Constituency Council for the benefit of just highlighting what is happening and encouraging people to follow the protocols during this COVID pandemic.
Thanks for holding. Good evening. Happy Independence.
Champagne, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Minister, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Minister, imagine you working under the Prime Minister and you can sit down there and articulate the plans of the government of St. Lucia. And vis-a-vis a leader that is on the other side, he cannot even at least give one item that is in his agenda. And he says he's the Prime Minister in waiting. There is no such thing. He cannot give one thing on the agenda to do for St. Lucia. And listening to you there tonight, Mr. Minister, it's amazing. And I'm hearing that you mentioned Ojo Lab and IBM and all the other companies in Vieux.
I tell BPL.
I tell BTM, whatever the name
BPO.
is. Okay? And listening to these guys, okay, they are saying that when they win, or if they win election, they will close Ojo Lab. And these guys talking about victimization. And some place that the present government has created some avenue in Vieux to employ so many hundreds of people. And you are saying that you are criticizing the government, and you are saying that if you ever win the election, you put in all these people out of employment, and on another hand, you're telling me, oh, you're going to put St. Lucians first. I mean,
Caller, you see this? You seen this Safenton Ramsahoy report?
Yes.
When the Labour Party was running the program, the STEP program, as an example, they were paying people, and some of these people who were being paid by the STEP program was working in a restaurant belonging to a high-ranking member of the St. Lucia Labour Party. If you look at all of the people who are employed, I can name the businesses in Vieux that had people under the NICE program working. But I have decided to refrain from labeling or branding people's businesses in that manner because it can send the wrong signal. Because this is not a problem with the business. This is a problem with the manner in which the government, when the government presented the NICE program, what did they promise us? They said that people were going to get job training for 6 months, a year, and afterwards these people would remain in employment and then they would rotate. Under the NICE program, everybody who started working worked for almost the entire 3 years. So there was no rotation of persons. If you look at what's happening with Ojo Labs, and I believe that we have shortchanged ourselves on the amount of information. I think by now we should disclose how much money the government is paying on a yearly basis and what the salaries of these people are on a yearly basis. So the comparison can be made to show how much Ojo Labs is paying to the people of St. Lucia for working. Because what we are doing there is no different from what the Labour Party did, you know. In terms of the amount of money spent, the difference is ours is more sustainable and the jobs are better paying jobs. But the Labour Party, they were paying people to work in the businesses of a lot of their friends. But I choose not to go down that road because I do not want to label the businesses.
All right, caller.
Yeah. That is fantastic, Mr. Minister. Because you see what happened. I happy the way you our government is dealing with things, because we're not going the dirty way, so to speak. Like I'm going and put people on the spot and I'm criticizing people's businesses and calling names, which is a very good thing. But I am telling you, Mr. Minister, I am so happy the way that this present government is trying to put Vieux Fort on the map, trying to do something that is good for the southern part of the island. Because all along...
Caller, you have 1 more minute there. We want to take some more calls. Thank you.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Champagne.
Go ahead.
All along, you find people who are talking about Grosile and Castries, and they're telling you they have to leave Vieux Fort and come to work in Castries, and that's not what they really want to do, because they could not get employment in Vieux Fort, so they had to leave and come up Castries. But right now, the way that this government is working, Mr. Minister, I realize that sooner or later, a lot of the Vieux Fortians and the Laborians and the people from Choiseul will come back to Vieux Fort and gain employment, which is a good thing.
They will stay
I
home.
applaud you, Mr. Minister, and happy independence.
Thanks
you.
a lot,
Same
caller.
to you.
Have a beautiful one. All right. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening.
Happy in the 42nd Independence Anniversary.
Thank you very much.
I
and
wish
same
you all
to
the
you.
best. And I thank you for your time, your effort, your use. I'm sure, I am positive that you have to go through a lot to be a minister, and I thank you for representing us. You don't represent me, I'm from the north.
Okay.
But for representing those persons in the south. However, this evening I would like to ask you 2 questions. There is the road from Grosile that will be leading to Vieux Fort. Now, you know, sometimes you hear a lot of propaganda. I don't want propaganda from people. I want it from the horse's mouth. I want it from you. I want to hear from you. That road leading from Grosile to Vieux Fort, when will it commence? Because I noticed that we have arrived, the road has arrived at the junction by Redwi, and you go up to Kilago. Is it going to Boseju and then it leads to Vieux Fort?
That's a completely separate project.
Okay.
The road we are talking about going from the area of Boseju, the first phase of the road is supposed to go to Dennery, and there's supposed to be one artery that feeds from the Alan Bousquet Highway to lead you into the area if the road is passing somewhere by Grantons or one of these areas. So that's going to be the link connecting. There was the potential of the connection from coming through forest here from Pitonflo, but because of the forest reserve area there, while it is the shortest route to connect the Dennery community to Castries, it is not it's not the preferred option because of the ecosystem in the area.
In that area.
So I cannot give you a start date because we are still in negotiations with various potential financiers for that road. And part of that road, part of the financing is supposed to come from the airport development tax that we are collecting, because remember, $35 is going towards the airport development, but you have an additional $28 to take you up to the $73 that we have on the airport development tax. So we had looked at the road as possibly being a toll road where people would pay, but we looked at it as If we use part of the airport development tax, now it reduces the travel time for somebody coming from the south to north by about almost 45 minutes. It cuts the time to about half of what it is presently. So we are in negotiations. I know there are about 3 or 4 companies, but what we are looking for is a design, finance, construct project on that. And I know there are companies that have showed interest, but I cannot give you a start date as to when this is going to begin.
Because I am especially thinking of those trailer trucks, because I guess that topography, the geography in that area would have to be able to accommodate those heavy duty equipment coming from Vieux Fort. And the trailer trucks, instead of having to go through the meandering areas, mountainous areas, it would be better that they come straight through.
So I tell people it's simple to analyze what we are seeing. So St. Lucia is what, 27 miles long from end to end, the longest point, about 27 miles. If you look at, if you build a proper highway that you can drive at the international speed limit, which is about 65 miles an hour. That's the most common speed limit you'd find for any main highway. It means that if you're traveling in a straight direction, and let's say, okay, you would have a few meanderings there. So let's say it's 30 miles from one end of the highway to the other. If you're going at 65 miles an hour, how much time does it take you to cover that road? So you would cover 65 miles in 65 minutes. So if you're going at 30 miles or 35 miles, then it's a mile a minute. So it naturally reduces your travel time to 45 minutes from Vieux Fort to the north. And that is what we are trying to get people to understand. We are not telling you stories. It's been done everywhere else in the world. So it can be done in St. Lucia, and it can open up the whole east coast of the island for development, because that area is untouched as far as development is concerned.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now, the next question, last one, quickly. The Vieux Fort Hospital, could you give us an idea of where it is? Because with COVID, I'm sure we may need the assistance of more space. And so how much longer might we have to wait?
I was very happy with what I saw that happened over the last couple of days. They have almost finished the panels on one side of the hospital. I know tonight they were doing maybe what would be the one before the final pour of concrete on the ground floor. All of the partitions are going up on the upper floor. So we would expect, and there are a lot of other internal things that are happening simultaneously, so that we can be in a position to be able to move from the George Odlum Stadium in a short space of time, because we realize that we may have COVID under control before. And I'm happy you asked the question about St. Jude, because a lot of people don't understand what we are doing until they see. We are not repaying the existing St. Jude. We are building a world-class hospital. We are building a hospital that is bigger than the OKEU hospital. And a lot of people don't understand until they see what is there. And that is the confidence that we have in development in the South, that you're going to have a hospital that can meet the needs of Vieux Fort for the next 40 to 50 years. So if Vieux Fort becomes like Rodney Bay, or not if, when Vieux Fort can surpass Rodney Bay in terms of its development, we would already have put in the infrastructure with the water that is going on there, with the road network, with the hospital, with the horse racing, all of the other amenities that are coming there, is to prepare Vieux Fort for its full potential as far as development is concerned.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
And to you as well. Happy Independence. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, 4560931 is our number. And we have another call coming in. Special good evening to you. Happy Independence.
Hi, good evening to you, Mr. Champagne, and to you, Mr. Guy Joseph.
Good evening
Happy
to you,
Independence to everybody.
Thank you, and same to you.
You're welcome, sir. So I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier, Champagne, and it was about the land that known as the CC land.
Yeah,
and the minister found that it was strange. Yes. So I'm saying back before the 2011 election, the present rep was on the ground, and then he had spoken to persons that the moment that they had voted for him, that he would have given them ownership of this land. And what happened after the election, they had a gentleman walking around the place saying that he would be doing surveying. And then he was asking the resident to go down to, at the time, it was the mayor who was supposed to be responsible as the lawyer, and where we had to pay a fee. But what I was telling them is the way they was looking to measure the place. Some people have very small portions, so they didn't even know exactly what they was going to do. Whether they wanted to cut it narrow, maybe the way somebody built on it, or if they was going to have one person buy a bigger portion and maybe rent for other people. So they never had a plan for that land, and that's why they did the 5 years, and up to now, the land is still the same way.
Yep.
And the next thing I heard you mention about the COVID going down.
Permit me to say that.
Sure.
I was not aware of that situation. But on behalf of my colleague, Miss Fortuna Belrose, who is the UWP candidate for this area, and this United Workers' Party government, I can assure you that we will begin to look into this matter immediately. I'm not talking about, I cannot say that everything will happen before elections, but that is a matter that is worth looking into and worth looking into immediately. And as minister responsible for housing, I will undertake that responsibility myself to begin to look into this matter.
You heard that, caller?
Very good. And one more thing I want to touch, Champagne.
Yes.
Like, most of the callers that speak would be saying, like, the SLP say, I will. But we have to know from growing up, when you speak about a will, you understand what they're talking about. The will itself they have to do with after you have your plans,
yes,
and like maybe someone passed away. So this SLP is dead, and they're thinking of their own will. And just for videos of what I saw today, Mr. Minister, I think the police have to do a better job, because here we had on Facebook, we saw many lives where we had huge crowd of people doing around the island. We look at the Kakabef, we had photos where you could easily see over 100 vehicles parked on the side and with bikes over 50 or so. So I wonder why the police could not go in, because they still have the right where we're supposed to have maybe 10 or so people in a gathering. So I just want to know what they have to say on why those gathering was there for so long, you know?
Well,
yeah, but have a blessed night.
Thank you. And while some people will have criticized the government very heavily, that's one of the reasons why we did not allow the sale of alcohol leading up to this holiday, because we still do not have the COVID exactly where we want it as far as the numbers and the reduction. And that is why it is important for us to continue to remember that we are in an environment where COVID is still a threat to us.
Thanks for holding, caller. Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Okay, so we lost this one. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Yeah, good night, Champ.
Good night,
brother Guy.
Good night.
Something.
Yeah.
Madam Lucky, I'm not the Matia. Madam La.
Nous pas bien encore.
Vous pas attendre moi?
Nous attendons mais pas bien, nous pas bien attendre. Allez, go ahead.
Okay. Moi dis comme ça, madame te couillé. Bon matin, là, il te demandé pour Dieu, madame la Kiniko là.
Oui.
Si c'est la caille, si c'est la caille, mon cabas on met bali.
Oh, madame, ça, l'Angleterre, yo dit c'est l'Angleterre.
Oui, l'Angleterre qui m'a donné au passage dans le pays.
Non, mon nani pour venir écrire moi demain encore, pour bama limoy.
Oh, ok.
Ok, so di écrire moi demain bon matin, mon ici, kay bama limoa.
Massa Mouna, moi, je quand nous mettons la prière, est-ce que ça nous prie demander pour prêter Mouna?
Non, eh ben, c'est pas programme dans l'Union Soir. Écrire moi demain bon matin, ou kay prêter bali.
Non, oui, mais moi, je vais vous parler.
Eh bien, bon, moi, demain bon matin, du tout. Parce que nous avons différents programmes à faire. Ok?
Ok.
Ok. Moi, je vais là demain. Je vais parler.
Faut que break up, nous pas attendre ça au cas d'hier.
Nous pas bien attendre Doudou. Quand je moi demain, si je voulais. Ok? Ok, merci. Hello, good evening. Hello. Good evening. So we gotta take this one. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Minister.
Good evening.
Yes, on a previous show, I heard you made reference to the lands at Rockall, where the old school was, the senior school.
Yes.
I spoke about that earlier.
Can you give us an idea of government plans for that land? Because that land now is really badly utilized, and it's overcrowded. And I think as a place I grew up, to see that place deteriorate to that level is just mind-boggling. So can you give us?
Are you talking
I know there were many promises.
Are you talking about the area where the old school was, the Rockall School?
Whether exactly there, yes.
Yes, so the plans for
that area.
We had done the geotechnical.
I listen. Yeah.
We had done the geotechnical studies and the other things that were required, and is to put some major apartment-sized buildings like the new CDCs in that area, so that it could utilize as many families, or we could get as many families an apartment as possible. So these are the plans that are in place for that area. Part of the issue we've had is the area of funding that was required for that project.
All right. Hello, good evening.
Yes, sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I have two questions for Mr. Guy Joseph.
Go ahead, sir.
Number one, the Millennium Highway. What's going on with that? I know he'll say he's not minister.
No, the Millennium Highway, that is the first phase.
Oh, no, okay, sir, sorry. Let me ask the second one. I'll hang up.
Yeah.
Cleanliness is godliness. I just wonder how come your constituency is the dirtiest. Old cars everywhere from Goodlands to Bexon. That doesn't say you're a clean fella. You're a nasty fella, man. That's my
Okay. That's your opinion, sir, but you should have stayed on the phone for the response. So you cannot remove people's cars. And I will tell you, everywhere we have been given permission, we have removed the old cars. So if you go into Cooley Town, you go along the Bexon Highway. And it's time that people, before I take on that call, it's time that people, how it's a rep's responsibility for old cars that people have their vehicles parked by the road? You think I'll come on a program? These Labour Party operatives who want to come, that's the only thing you can find to criticize my representation about. So obviously you did not want to know about the Millennium Highway.
Yeah.
So I will not waste my time to answer you. But rest assured, if you're man enough, call back and let's have a one-on-one discussion on this about old cars or about cleanliness and nastiness.
Thanks for holding, caller. Good evening. Hello. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Mr. Minister.
Good evening.
Happy 42nd anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Mr.
Mr. Minister,
Yeah.
I'd like to give you a point earlier tonight comparing Kenny Anthony with Philippia. And that's one of the things I do all the time.
Mm.
I ask people all the time, who's the better leader between Philippia and Kenny Anthony? And if they do answer, they say Kenny Anthony. I say, okay, Kenny Anthony is the better one. Okay, that's what you'll think. And he backed up the country. And nobody will let him a penny. But I'll go a little further, Mr. Minister. As you said, you can't fix up a constituency. You can't fix a road. But you could get a smart, but you could give the people a smart city. Or like pie in the sky. That's like, no, let me go a little further. You remember Kenny Anthony offered the people, said he's gonna put $100 million in the economy.
Immediately.
Immediately. What did Pierre say this time? I'm gonna put their back raise. Pierre said he's gonna put $125 million immediately. You remember the CSA was asking for the 15 or 20%, something like that? And Kenny Anthony was saying, give them the money, give the people the money, give the people the money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're doing the same thing. People cannot eat rolls. Give the people the money, give the people the money. Let me say this to you, man. These people, that SLP just believe that most emotions are stupid, dumb, and backward. And I don't blame them. Because this is where the guy kind of, university guys come around you with those kind of nonsense. ABC nonsense. Every day, and you're going to vote for these guys. A man bankrupt the country, you're going to vote for this guy? Huh? Really? Who does that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Nobody calling.
For those guys? Really?
All right, my friend. Thanks a lot.
Those guys have no shame. Those guys should not be in politics, period. They should not be in politics. They shouldn't even mention the word politics. They should be charged, locked up, and show the key.
All right, caller. Have a good one. All right, beautiful. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Yes, good evening, Champagne, and good night to... Yes, good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, good night to the minister. Well, I just heard the minister spoke to some concept that they have for Rock Hall area. And I think it is a good thing. I think they need to look at this concept around the city area. When you look at places like the Chaussee, Graveyard, and those places, maybe they need another structure like that in the Conway Bernard Hill area, so that they can have, a structure and to create space whereby maybe they could probably have play area for those persons who would be occupying those buildings. So I think, it's time that we have this kind of buildings where you can accommodate several families, and then to use the rest of the space for other purposes.
So caller, just permit me to say this while you're making your contribution. I am one of the ministers who do not believe in relocating people by force. I believe that when people are accustomed to making a living and living somewhere, that if they want to move from there, it should be by choice as much as possible. Now, there are extraordinary circumstances that may necessitate you to relocate people for various reasons. But I'm not one who believes that at random you just go, you say, oh, I don't want these people there, just take them out. I believe that you have to create the environment. And I love what you say there, because you can look at places like Fulasho, and you can look at George Charles Boulevard.
That's the next point I was...
Build proper houses, build proper apartment buildings, and give the people the building. You don't even have to charge them a big price for these. But you improve their living conditions, hoping that that would help to improve their way of living. Because when people are accustomed to living somewhere and you just relocate them, it does not necessarily solve a problem.
Yes, and so I was about to come to Fuasho. That was my next area, because what is happening there, you know, with all of those things that just appear like shed, like a big shed, you know, really does not cut it, you know, for the city area. So I believe that there should be some proper buildings, maybe 2 buildings in that area that can accommodate, you know, all of the families that are there, you know, and then you use the rest of the space so that, you know, they can engage in other activities and so on and make the place look beautiful, you know. So that's the idea that I would want to throw out there.
Definitely. And I think you're right on target with your suggestion. We need to be rounding off something. I have Parliament tomorrow.
Yeah, but Mr. Minister, just from my personal, from my standpoint, has there ever been any cabinet conversation regarding Fuasho? Is there ever a plan regarding Fuasho?
We have looked at a number of possible options that we can discuss.
Okay. Thanks for holding, caller. Good evening.
Good evening, champion.
Good evening. Go ahead, sir.
I just could have bonsoir and bel bonsoir avec ministre moi.
Hey, Kelly.
Brother Jean.
Brother Jean, moi pas pour Kelly. Est-ce okay?
Oui.
Ok, ou just got the minister, bonsoir.
Oui, c'est ça.
Eh bien, il a quoi pour dire Bali?
Non, on just dit bonsoir.
Est-ce qu'on peut dire Bali tous les jours?
Ah, mais constant.
Ok, all right. Okay,
all right, bonsoir. Merci pour couiller.
All right.
Yes, brother Jean.
All right.
Okay, Nia, bonne journée. Bonsoir. Okay.
All
We're
right.
taking how many more? 4, 5, 2, what are we doing? It's 10:33. A beautiful evening to you. Hello.
Hello, good night, my brother.
Good night to you, sir.
Hello, good night.
Go ahead, sir. Good
How
night.
you doing?
We're good, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Good night, Minister. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Good night to you.
Okay, all right. I'm there listening to you all, and I realize the plan that you all have, especially although it's not in action as yet, but that plan you see that the government has from the north to the south, I think that will be a good plan, you know? Yeah, because take you out from one point to the other point within, I could say, half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, or even I would say half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good plan, you know? Yeah. And I could say that I realize I won't say jealous, you know, I won't say jealous because you're all ministers together, you know. But you want, because I'm from Sufra and my minister have been doing some good work in Sufra.
Oh boy,
know?
I saw
Especially,
that stadium there. Definitely, let me tell you, that's really world class.
Yeah, we have some footage of it. You want to show it, Mr.
Yeah, because the last time I went down to Sufra, I work in Castries, you know, I work in Castries. But the last time I went down to Sufra there, and I went by the field. Wow! That's an international place, you know.
Caller, can I jump in? Are you from Sufra? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Let me tell you, Champagne.
Yeah.
I realized a few years ago, 2 years, you had given me a ride. You was going down to Sufra with to go and support my minister. I think they had a cricket match.
Oh yes,
you know,
in
down
Belfort.
somewhere. And
yes.
And yeah, and you the man that's in charge of the CCC.
The mayor.
You had the mayor, and you had some friends. Then you had given me a ride.
I remember. So let me ask you. Let me ask you this now. Under what ground do you think the Sufra people would want to vote for Emma after all what has been done down there in Sufra by Mr. Stanislas?
No, but Emma hasn't done nothing in Sufra. Okay, let me say something to you on what you're saying there. I live in Marisil, okay? I live in Marisil, Grozili, and Emma hasn't not done nothing, absolutely nothing in Marisil. nothing in Marisil. Probably he has done 1, 2 things, in Grosili. But apart from that, nothing from Bajawaj come up to Marisil and the other in and out of Marisil. He hasn't done nothing.
Well, she said she went back home. Huh? She said she went back home to develop home. That's what she said.
Yeah, because she's from Soufrière, obvious, because we raised up together in Soufrière,
Okay.
But I'm not seeing that Soufrière people will give her that vote, to come up, because my minister has done a good job in Soufrière.
Amen.
And apart from that, I still see that he has another project. I don't know if you're aware of it or the minister is aware of it. You know Palmis Road?
I know Palmis.
Yes,
Palmis Road.
I know he's doing Palmis Road, but I think tomorrow the Esperance to Diamond Road is supposed to commence. That is another major project that's going to link Fosse Jacques via Esperance into, which makes it a much shorter route to get into Soufrière through Diamond. You know, that road has been closed since Derby, I think, in 1994 or thereabouts.
Something so.
94, that's right.
Let me tell you, Minister, you see, that road, I'm telling you, that road is a very important road for the people of Soufrière, And now the reason why I say it's very important, if the main road going to Fontaine-Jacques, something happened, and that road fixed up, it will be easier for the people to go through and to go Fontaine-Jacques and do what they have to do.
I am very familiar. I have actually driven through that road even as it has been abandoned when I was Minister for Communications and Works, because the first phase of the Esperance Road, I was the one who did that when I was Minister for Communications and Works between 2006 and 2011. And it was always our intention to reconnect that road back to Diamond.
Okay, caller.
Okay,
thank you.
Good because just a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Go ahead.
Just a minute. That is something I always tell my minister, that road, he has to do it. Because if he do that road,
I expect tomorrow, if everything goes according to plan, that you should see some activity on that road tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Herod all the way.
Yes, that's my boy, Let me give you a little piece.
Yeah.
I went to the junior secondary school.
Yeah.
And his father was my teacher.
Okay.
And his mother, we went to the same school, but different classes.
Okay.
Good night, my brother.
All right, have a good one. Hello, good evening.
Yeah.
Hello, good night.
Good night. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. We have you.
Mr. Shamden.
Oui, Banna.
Est-ce que vous avez filtré Mr. Gaïla? Nous avons bien répondre, monsieur.
Oui, pas répondre.
Répondre, monsieur. Nous qui nous répondre.
Eh bien, répondre, Bali. Pas dire un insultant sur radio, hein.
Là, il a tiré ses hats, c'est pas Mr. Gaï qui a venu tirer hats devant la porte.
Ok. Eh bien, ça, c'est une bonne réponse.
C'est pas le ministre qui a tiré vieux motoka.
Ça, c'est une belle réponse.
Ok.
Ok, Banna.
Because c'est nous qui nous répondre.
Ça, oui. Oui, ça, oui. Because tout ça, l'année, il ça dit.
Let me tell you, the Labour Party fellas, you're desperate, so you can't share tout buy. C'est tout ça, mon Labour, ça couille dans le programme.
Ah, vérité. Special good evening to you, hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that things have to be done totally different, completely different, because we haven't got a structure to implement things for the entire country. We need policies that cover the entire country, and I don't see it coming. So when will we change from the old way of doing things like
Can you be a little more explicit, caller?
Yes, because we are actually suffering from some deficit, in terms of what we can get from our government, and what we can get from our people. So how can we correct that? Because we need new policies for that.
So I am not sure I follow you exactly, because that's a very broad-based question. But
as it should be done, we're still going along,
The problem that you have is everywhere where people reside, you have to attend to. And because the population is spread out in pockets into different areas, you would always find challenges in meeting all of the needs of all of the areas.
Thanks for holding, caller. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, good evening.
Yeah, can you turn on your radio just a little bit, please, or your television set, please?
Oh, sorry. Yes, good evening, good
Yeah,
evening.
go ahead, caller, go ahead.
Champagne, good evening.
Good
Minister.
evening to
This is
you,
Golly.
sir. Yes.
I am just calling to let you know that we have mobilized to start the express for the restaurant Diamond Road tomorrow. It's on schedule, okay?
That's why I'm ringing the bell.
Yes, ring it.
Ring it. Continue to ring it. All right.
Okay.
And explain to the people where exactly is Esperance and where is it leading from? Is it coming from Fort St. Jacques down into Soufrière town?
The Esperance is from Boca to Diamond. Diamond, starting from Diamond Estate to go through. But actually, we started
Diamond comes from when you go into the Diamond Falls.
Waterfall, yes.
The Diamond
Some people
Falls.
might not know where Esperance is. That's the one.
So Esperance is from the Fort St. Jacques.
Right.
It's from Fort St. Jacques. You go through Mocha and then Esperance.
Okay. All right. How long is that road, caller? Would you know? Is it a mile?
Is about
3 kilometers.
3 kilometers.
About
Oh, okay. So you're
a
talking
mile,
6
2
miles.
miles.
3 kilometers?
Yeah.
Okay, but
About that. Yes. So we're starting tomorrow.
Okay, that is great news, caller. Yes.
Right, okay.
All right, thanks a lot. Beautiful. All right, so it is at 10:45, Mr. Minister. We have another 15 minutes, or you're wrapping up? I know you have to be in the house tomorrow. The minister is on his phone, caller, so you would still call me. We may take a few more calls. 4560931 is our number, whatever you'd like to ask the minister. That is good news for the people of Soufrière, boy, the amount. Mr. Kammerman, I gave you some footage there regarding the Soufrière.
He showed it already.
Oh, I thought we okay. Beautiful evening to you. Hello.
Good night, Brother Champagne.
Good night to you.
Good night, Brother Guy.
Good night.
I have a different note. Mine is to ask to open all the newly renovated churches from the Adventist Church. And most people, when you ask them something, they never know. So all the people that are on retirement and are qualified should talk to the people. Because without that, when somebody is innocent, there's nothing you can do. And then on Fridays is an off day, and on Sabbath everybody can come to school. Because the problem is not a Sabbath problem, but the problem is a sin problem. And most people, when you talk to them, they say they don't know this, they don't know that. Anyway, I hope you can think about it and do something about it. Because church was never meant to close. It's because of people so unruly, so many criminals. That's why church is remaining closed now.
All right, caller. All right, have a good evening.
Okay, yes,
sorry.
as far as the protocols are concerned, I think the churches are back in operation and they are able to take persons up to the capacity of the size of the church. Where we retain the control is with funerals and these things where people generally tend not to abide by the protocols, and so the various church congregations are responsible for the management of activities within the church. Now, of their general membership, they have control, but when it comes to open activities like weddings and funerals and things like that, there's very little control. That's why the restrictions remain in place during these activities or these services in particular.
All right, thanks for holding, caller. Good evening. Hello. Good evening, sir. Hello.
Yes, hello, Champagne.
Yes, I'm there. I could hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, brother. I would like to explain myself a bit more explicitly in a Creole language. Yes. Okay. Let me tell you. Champagne, you know what happened? Mr. Minister, good night. Sorry.
Good night. Moi kwa double di sa ka di en créole, moi sa parler créole, moi sa comprendre créole.
Caller, you listening to your device? Just go ahead and ask the minister what you'd like to ask him. We just parler bali.
Okay, champion. All right. Some cut a good year. Hoje, o débitant mo connaît hoje ka vote. Yo ka vote. Les boys ou pas jamais vote là. Flambeau. Tout ça n'a mandé à hoje a même pas vote rien en chimie. Il prend une femme pour demander yon.
I think you listening to your radio or your television. Forget about the TV or just listen, just speak through the phone.
Kola ukakute ko no pa ko pano. Kwani pou vie kuye.
Il peut y avoir pour madame Favin hoje. Écoutez, ministre a venu.
Kola ukandi pou vie kuye no pana. Okay? No pa ko pan sa ukadi. I'm sorry, we had to, I couldn't understand what you were saying, apparently listening to it. We had, you remember I spoke to you about some, at the Hugh and Orchard down in Vieux a few weeks ago where they wanted a little cleanup down there. And I got some photos on that. I don't know if he wants to show it, but the people are very, very happy that they got their park or their square cleaned up.
Okay, so I think we can end the calls.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to end our call. So callers, thank you very much. The calling period is ended. We want to show a little bit of footage from the minister and just...
so I want him to show some footage there, and you can put up the pictures. The caller, you see, these Labour Party people think that they are smart.
Mm.
These are old cars in the Cooley Town community that just about a month or so or 2 months ago, we sent that truck and every one of these old cars that was along the way, we removed them.
Okay.
So when you see the caller, so they realize, and that is about the third time that I have done that in the constituency. And the project I have done there is not a project financed by government. This is a project that I have undertaken on my own. The residents of the community, they came together and they said, look here, we need to, all of these derelict vehicles, they are causing rodents, they are water ponds, they're causing mosquito breeding, and it also narrows the roadway. So we've started, we did the first phase along the Bexon Highway. You remember right next to Auto Specialist there was a burnt car on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Now what people don't understand is that people who own vehicles have a responsibility. So solid waste would have to pass and tag these vehicles and do the necessaries. But because they see what we are doing, so that is why, I think that is what triggered the caller. But I always tell them, I'm never caught off guard.
That's right.
And I don't respond to just what people say. I have the evidence to show that we've been moving derelict vehicles in the community where people request that we move the old vehicles. Now the caller spoke about Goodlands. I can tell you, I know the garages that are along the way. How many old vehicles you get along the, you drive that road on a regular basis. So it tells you that desperation is driving the Labour Party supporters to talk a whole set of nonsense.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. They have run out of all kinds of topics. Any idea? Could you imagine? Anyway, you told me don't take that on, but
no, you don't need to validate some of these things. I want to be able to say, you know, there's a word that the present leader of the opposition uses. And I want to read a quotation from page 566 of Lapses and Infelicities. It says, the opposition MP, Richard Frederick, congratulated the Prime Minister for acknowledging that Section 361 amounted to a gag on the press. Philip J. Pierre disagreed. Listen to this. So Richard Frederick is thanking Kenny Anthony. That's when he won the by-elections. And he was the representative for Castries Central. So when Kenny went to Parliament and removed 361, I guess he gave an explanation as to why he removed 361. So Philip J. Pierre, who's Kenny's acolyte, comes out and says, so Richard, the opposition MP Richard Frederick, congratulated Prime Minister for acknowledging that Section 361 amounted to a gag order on the press. Philip J. Pierre disagreed. He said the section was misinterpreted by the public, so we decided to repeal it. So he said, so somebody misunderstand the law. Why you didn't come and explain to them what the law is? That's the level of foolishness that you get from Philip J. Pierre. But here's what he says. It's as simple as that. Rather than being critical of the government, the opposition should be congratulating the Prime Minister for listening to the voice of the people. So first of all, you said that the people didn't understand. And you see that word simple? Everything for him is simple. You remember I read where they took the $200 and something million that, and it said it's simple as that, instead of borrowing the money. Right. So he seemed to have an affection for the word simple, because you're going to say it's as simple as that, rather than being critical of the government, the opposition. So you put a law that is contrary or going against the freedom of the press. You realize pressure was on you leading up to elections. You decide to remove it. You think somebody should be congratulating you for moving the law that you put there? Why did you put it in the first place? That's the level of the man who today want to treat St. Lucia as a lottery and talk about his turn. In closing tonight, we talk about independence. I want to put the people of St. Lucia on alert. There's a policy that is branded out there. Now don't mind who it's coming from. The Labour Party is putting out information through different agents for them to see the reception of the people. So there's a policy talking about removing income tax and increasing VAT. What did I say to the people leading up to I said if Labour Party won the election, they would have increased VAT from 15% to a higher percentage, either 18. And you heard when they said about Barbados is at whatever percentage of VAT. Now, St. Lucians, listen, because sometimes, because it's our party, we want to play that we not here. I want St. Lucians to understand. If you are for the poor people, why would you increase VAT and eliminate income tax? Everybody below the income bracket of $18,000 do not pay income tax. Now, to make $18,000 a year, you must be earning $1,500 a month. And by right, it should have been increased to about $23,000. It has not happened, but it should happen. I think the Labour Party had promised to do that, I don't want to be quoted on that. I am not certain, so I'm going to leave that alone. So think of it from that standpoint. If you are going to remove income tax, who benefits? The upper class, the rich, those who have a higher salary are the ones who are going to benefit because they are the ones paying income tax. The people below the income bracket of $18,000 a year, which is $1,500 a month, they do not pay income tax. But if you increase VAT, so what the Labour Party wants to do is to move VAT from 12.5 back to the 15, and then on top of that, to put a higher percentage on the VAT to make up for the income tax. Now, when they put VAT on a product, whether you earn $10,000 a month or you earn $1,000 a month, the VAT is the same for everybody. So you paye madou champagne, combien l'argent ou ka fait as un red cap? Ek pou di, ok, ou pa fait jela hamwa sa, so ka paye un pli petit VAT. So you see, the Labour Party cannot help themselves but work against the people of St. Lucia. So when you introduce a policy like that, you benefit in those who have a higher income and you squeeze in those in the lower bracket. Because right now what they would be doing is all the people who are not paying income tax, they would be charging them a higher VAT, and the people who are making the higher salaries and making more income and who can afford to pay the income tax, you would now give them a break by waiving the income tax and spreading the VAT on everybody from the poor person to the person at the highest level. Is that a government that's really for? That's why I tell you, the Labour Party wants people to remain poor in this country. And those who have already, they want them to have more. Because a policy like that can only work against the poor people, not in favor of the poor people. Tonight, St. Lucia, we have celebrated our 42nd anniversary of independence. Mwen vle di, mwen feel St. Lucia nom a bwezan. Ebe, St. Lucia fam, because St. Lucia, as our tagline goes, let her inspire you. St. Lucia has attained a level of maturity in womanhood, and we are responsible for our own affairs. We cannot gamble with our future. The Labour Party has nothing to offer.
Nothing.
The record is there to see. Let them show you what they have done to develop this country, how they have grown the economy. Nothing is there to show. All they have done is put this country backward. And you have a party that is very unstable. And I want people to read It Will Be All Right in the Morning and see what is in there and get a glimpse of what the political struggles have cost us. I see the Labour Party today the same place that it was around 1979, 82.
Could be worse.
The Labour Party has no clear leadership.
Could be worse.
You have a man who's supposed to be leader. All leaders, you go to any function, if the Prime Minister is speaking, the Prime Minister is the last person to speak. The tradition in Parliament is that the leader speaks last. Premier leader moi, c'est lui qui peut parler avant toutes les, c'est Philippe J. Pierre. Every time. So you have to wonder who is in charge. Because before he used to speak first, before he was leader, he say he is leader, he's still speaking first. When naturally, the leader of the opposition, with the exception of the budget, where he would respond to the Prime Minister, and he can respond in the end. He don't have to respond immediately. He can accumulate. But that is, you see, now, peut-être comme dit ça, you can change operation. But clearly the man is not a leader. When you have followed for so long, you forget how to lead. He has been a follower for too long in his life. He does not know where to begin to lead. But tomorrow I'll deal with some of that in the parliament. I look forward to the discussion and the debate in the parliament tomorrow. I want St. Lucians to remember that even if we celebrate independence, COVID is still here. The vaccine is in place. Some people have received their vaccines, some have not. I have not received mine yet. I'm looking forward to when I'm going to get mine so that we can build some immunity. But I want to encourage all those who have access. In fact, this afternoon, while I was in the Bel Air community, a gentleman said to me, moi just espère pour moi vaccine moi qui troisième monde qui a registré un health center pour moi ça prend vaccine moi so il dit ça pas vle prend yo pas besoin prend mais moi ça ngai prend ça man pour protect corps moi. I want to encourage us, let us continue to follow the protocols, let us continue to maintain social distancing, wear our mask when we are in public, when we are in close proximity to other people, so that we can protect them and protect ourselves. And whatever is left of the 42nd anniversary of independence and whatever you are doing, enjoy it and remember we can and we will. God bless you.
All right, and God bless you as well, Mr. Minister, and you have a good one in House of Parliament tomorrow. St. Lucia, this is another program that has come to the end of Inside Castries Southeast. Don't forget, tomorrow I'm going to have on the program, Champagne in the Morning, Mr. Peter Fenistan. He is one of the directors of Fresh Start, and we are going to speak about all of the great developments happening around, including St. Jude's and the Rodney Bay expansion on the roads up there. We have a lot to talk about. You want to join me tomorrow from at about 10 o'clock when Mr. Fenistan is going to make his appearance right there into Sky FM. St. Lucia, we want to say thank you very much for tuning in this evening's program. Enjoy what's left of our 42nd anniversary of independence, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning. You have a good night. Always remember to say thank you to the great God above for bringing you through another brand new day. We will see you tomorrow morning. St. Lucia, you do have a good evening. God bless.
Bye.